Thank you very much for such a nice welcoming, and I hope I'll be at the level of the previous speakers that have been really amazing. So let me talk to you today about what happens in the backstage of the businesses, because today we have been talking a lot about the individual, the entrepreneur, the characteristics of the individual. We have been talking a lot about the context. Where are those entrepreneurs working? Companies, the structure of the company, society, socioeconomic conditions that need to be achieved. And one thing that has been there in the air, it's like the elephant in the room, is everybody's talking about networks, and networks of people, of entrepreneurs. Who are the people surrounding those entrepreneurs? So I hope I can bring some good insight about that exactly. And as background information, I need to tell you something about Amsterdam, because that's where most of my research is taking place. And if we don't know about the context, then of course, then we don't know how to place those networks and how to place those entrepreneurs in those geographic allocations, because that's very important. So Amsterdam is indeed a place that boosts international businesses. And they claim themselves that they are a city that has a lot of international business, a hub. They are trying to attract all the companies after Brexit. So it is a city that, well, a lot of international businesses are around. So when you think about international business, actually it is very related to migrants. I mean, international businesses you cannot have without migrants, without people traveling back and forth, without people going back and forth. And over there, of course, with the eruption of artificial intelligence, with the eruption of internet-based companies, you have a lot of digital businesses. You have consultancy, transportation, communication, all these businesses that sometimes we do not see a physical product. Sometimes it's an invisible service, an invisible product. And what happens there? Well, the thing is that in Amsterdam, many of those businesses are being carried out, are being executed by migrants. And that is exactly what I am researching on. Just to give you a very brief overview of my whole research is that. So imagine, that is my whole research. Imagine the nice little bird, right? Because I thought the bird was kind of neutral, a neutral image to show a migrant. Because a bird has no gender, a bird has no age, a bird has it can be applied to any of the surface level diversity that we've been talking about. And a bird is actually very neutral. But a bird is carrying a lot of things. So imagine that all these migrants are carrying their education, their money, their experiences, their credit cards, of course, if you like it. But they are carrying a lot of things. And that is the starting point of my research. Because today I'm going to focus on connections. And just imagine for a second that all your friends and family are left apart. I think we got a very good experience with the previous speaker who went to Mexico, and all the family and friends were left aside. In her case, for a year. For other people, it's longer terms. For other people, can be 6 months, can be a week. What happens when you lose all those networks? What happens when you are not in contact with all of them? That is a question, indeed, that most of the migrants face. So, if in once they have lost all their connections, well, then is when they start making new ones. So I wanted to tell you about one example. So this example can actually illustrate my argument. It's about a company. I will not say the name because of privacy reasons of research, but it is a company based in the Netherlands where it was established by 3 people, one of them Dutch origin, 2 migrants, plus they had freelancers for all their projects. So they never had employees, which is a very interesting thing in digital businesses. They worked a lot with freelancers per project. And they have a migratory history of one of them being in Germany and Sweden before the Netherlands, another one being in Greece before the Netherlands, and they both went to study there and stayed and started a company together. What is their company? Is make the digital experience of startups match their users. So a lot of technological developments to help the startups grow in digital businesses. That as a background. But what happens with them? what happens with their connections, and that's what I'm today here to tell you about. I wanted to show you some graphs because they look very cool, basically. But besides that they look very cool, it's because they can give us a very nice graphic representations of who the people surrounding the entrepreneurs are. This has a light yellow. Yes. So the entrepreneur is in the center, and I chose those two founders who were migrants. The entrepreneur is in the center, and all these are business connections. Business connections. If you want to talk more about how I gather that information, we can have a beer afterwards, of course, and then I will tell you a lot about how you gather all that information. The thing is, all these business connections have been there either to develop an idea or to implement a business idea. That is what is behind that. You will say, well, they only have around 10 people or something per person. And the answer behind that is, of course, because you have a time limitation and a space limitation. If you have a private life, work, plus your family, plus everything, you cannot have 100 business contacts that help you in your business. You maybe have 10 or even less. So you must have that into mind that there are few people. So what happened with these entrepreneurs? These entrepreneurs, how did they make these contacts? Many of these contacts came from their work experience. So you have work experience that one of them actually was working in the Netherlands before, another one was a freelancer before, and some of their co-workers became business partners. Interesting. For those of you who are becoming entrepreneurs or want to, well, think about your co-workers as potential partners or business advisors. They mentioned that the startup world in Amsterdam is a close-knit community based on their office location. Meaning that if people are in a certain location, like WeWork or Rockstart or Amsterdam Hub, then all the people in that area will be quite similar and will know each other. And at the end is a very small world of entrepreneurs. So of course it is divided around that. And what is interesting of this graphic, if you can see that it's kind of orangey, the color of the people of each of the circles. So that means that they all live in the Netherlands, especially in the region of Amsterdam. So what does this graphic is telling us? This graphic is telling us, well, these entrepreneurs are working in a digital business. These entrepreneurs are using a lot of new technology, but it's also telling us that most of the contacts are in the same location. So geographical location does matter. And geographical location does matter because you can meet with these people on a regular basis. What does one of these person told us? You can read it yourself. Talking to people and making actual connections with people does better business than going to events or just pitching your ideas. And here I challenge you a little bit. You have been now to an event, to a conference talking about diversity the whole time. How many new real connections that you're going to say, well, I'm going to talk with this person after the conference is over, have you made today? You still have another chance after when we're done. Exactly, there is a very good one. You got a connection, so you might start working with somebody. But about the rest, who is going to do that? 2. Great. So I think it is very important to know that, and to know that from entrepreneurs. Like, how do you really make good connections? Because they are in the backstage of your business. They are the ones that, if you go and meet an entrepreneur, you don't know who the networks behind this entrepreneur are. Those are invisible. But those are the source of a lot of ideas, or a lot of creativity, or a lot of testing and implementation of your business ideas. So that really, really matters. Another thing that they said is, meeting like-minded people. So I totally agree with the research that you said before, that diversity is a double-edged sword. And I'm glad I'm not the party pooper that said diversity could be also bad. But I build upon that, because diversity indeed, sometimes similarity is also good. Sometimes finding like-minded people is good because you speak the same language, the same things, so you can understand each other faster and do things better. Family members, let's not forget that family members are also, or could also act as business advisors. And of course, there is a word in sociology to say that is multiplexity, meaning one person can have multiple roles in your life. Can be family, can be business advisor, can be a friend. So try for you to decide which things is better. The other of the founders of this company said, well, going to events and trying to get people to like me, that was important, because then they would like to work with me. And that is something that sometimes it goes against what we believe, because sometimes we want to believe that only because of our skills and only because of what we know, we can do things, or we will be known and we will be called to do stuff and entrepreneurs will be successful. And what these entrepreneurs is telling us is, well, I know things, I am good at it, but I also need people to like me, especially those who make business with me, because then they will keep doing business with me. So sometimes we sort of forget that, but sometimes it's good a reminder that, yeah, personal relationships and liking other people make businesses easier. And they also mention, of course, that some Dutch clients would prefer their own language. I think that's not a surprise. And that the co-nationals helped into making the business. Also not a surprise, because co-nationals can easily help. So I wanted to show you this as another graphic. Well, I have a lot of these graphics, so I decided to put today just 4. So this is the last graphic I showed you. But this is the same entrepreneurs, the same A and B. But this is about, I was talking right now about communication. So this is about language. Which language do they speak with these contacts? So again, color difference. You see that in most of them, well, this one looks a bit more reddish, but it should be the same color as that one. So it should be orangish. And the orange means English and Dutch. So people who speak English and Dutch at the same time with that entrepreneur. And it's very interesting, because what can we learn from this? We don't get as a lesson, okay, use English as the main lingua franca of businesses. Actually, what we learn from here is choose a language or choose common concepts that you can share with other people, because that makes businesses easier and that makes communication with people easier. And another thing is, as a migrant, these entrepreneurs, as migrants, they do have had this ability, I got 2 minutes, right? They do have this ability to connect the Dutch context, so in this case, the Amsterdam context, with their own international context. And that is something that we can all learn, because when going to a different group, going to a different place, we are able to become the bridges. And being entrepreneurial in the digital age is about connecting with people and making bridges with people. But as I said before, connecting meaningful bridges, not just having 100 contacts in LinkedIn and boasting about it. To sum up, because I have 2 minutes and otherwise we don't get our promised beer, contacts who are closer and many times similar to the entrepreneur fulfill the role of business advisors. So diversity is good. It's good to find people who are very diverse to you, but also look in your circles who is similar to you, who can help you and who can help you test the crazy ideas you may have, because you need a safety area where you can test it and where you can try it out. A lingua franca helps to exchange ideas, so find yourself which is the lingua franca that you prefer to make business with or that you prefer to do research on. Find the common concepts. That is the message behind that. And again, time and task allocation of digital services is constantly changing. So to really wrap it up, offline contacts are critical for businesses. We're talking a lot about digital era. We're talking a lot about contacts with people with digital technologies, using artificial intelligence, trying to find people who are diverse than us or similar than us. But don't forget that the human contact, face-to-face, creating a meaningful conversation and some meaningful advice to each other sometimes is much more important, especially when it's about making money or when it's about writing a paper. Thank you very much.